Welcome to the Pro Cheerleading Podcast. This is the only podcast that gives you a raw and unfiltered perspective of what it's really like to be a professional cheerleader. Whether you're currently on a pro team, an alumni, or really curious about what it takes to become a pro cheerleader, the Pro Cheerleading Podcast gives you all the inside scoop and hot topics in the pro cheerleading industry and in-depth interviews of current and former cheerleaders. I'm your host, Mhkeeba. Join me every Wednesday as I reveal the truth behind the Poms. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Cheer Chat. It is the season finale for season 6. I'll leave you guys with some parting thoughts. I'm giving you guys a double episode this week because last week I had to, take it down a notch. I really needed to sit the F down somewhere. I'll just have to say it's the importance of self-care in today's time because sometimes you're going. I forget what people say. It's not working from home. It's like working. I forget what the phrase is, but living at work or something like that. Between, the end of the quarter and just having last week off, I thought, I'll get all this stuff done, for the podcast. And my body was just like, no, you won't. We ain't doing shit. Sorry. But it was something that I needed, but I had big plans to end the season last week and it just did not come together. But I think it was all for the better. I was able to get enough clarity and quiet to get this open letter done, you guys. And really excited about that. I posted it a little bit after midnight last night and lots of good feedback so far. We can talk more about that later, just in terms of what now, If you haven't had a chance to read it, it is posted on Instagram. It's on the website, on the blog, and I'm going to read it for the sake of the podcast later, so we'll have story time. But for now, thank you guys for joining. I wanted to give you guys the heads up that I will be taking a little break. There's not much going on but the Rona anyway, but to give a little bit more time for things to develop, leading into whatever season of football that we have. But I plan to launch season 7 on August 19th. So I will be gone, but I will be still be around on social media, of course. And if there's some things that are happening, I have no problems jumping online and talking about it really quick and sharing information. But this is the season finale. I'm calling I Want to Dance with Somebody. This episode features an interview with Neely Neal. She's a former Arizona Cardinals cheerleader, and she started this amazing business and community called Go Fit Win, and it's kind of geared toward former pro cheerleaders who just want to kind of feel like you're in practice again. It's not like the same as like a dance class. I think the Rona kind of messed up the plans of having groups that would gather in certain regions, but do it online for now. But it's a great way to just kind of stay in touch with people and feel like you're a part of something again, that other thing that we miss, not just our, cheerleading bodies, but just like the camaraderie and learning routines that are not like doing the most audition mode, but just, just having cute, fun routines that just let you milk it and feel it. And you know what I mean? Just like fun. Like that's what's missing. Sometimes you don't want to just do masterclass level routine. You just want to look cute, be sassy, and just do your thing for a few minutes and bond with people who also have that connection with you of cheering professionally. I think it's a great idea. She has some wonderful ideas that are coming down the pipe. So we're going to talk to her for I Want to Dance with Somebody. All right. So while I'm gone, y'all can't be forgetting about me, okay? Like I said, I'm coming back August 19th. But I've just been noticing that there are a lot of new communities forming, whether it's Instagram or Facebook. And I just wanted to, give them a shout out, and hopefully you guys will support them and just, stay connected with one another and obviously stay connected with me too. But I've already talked about Pro Dance Boys. I think it's really great. It's an Instagram account dedicated to showcasing and highlighting amazing male performers in pro entertainment. So you'll get to know some of these guys that have made these teams in the NFL, and hopefully we'll see more, dancers in the NBA that are featured there as well. So follow them. And then Sister Space is a new page that was created to provide a safe space to discuss experiences of Black dancers in professional sports. So follow their handle. I believe it's Sister Space. Oh my gosh, I'll tag it below. Look it up. You'll find it. I think there's an underscore in there somewhere, but another great community of dancers coming together and talking about what it's like, and just sharing inspirational things of like what you would do differently or what support you wish you had, blah, 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 blah. I think they're having, Zoom meetings to get to know one another. So again, all this networking, you guys, is always good to just broaden your horizons and who you know in this industry. I think it's so much easier with social media to get to know people on different teams. So stay connected. And the last one that I wanted to bring up was Poms Up Pom Queens. It's a free private group on Facebook for former NFL cheerleaders and lovers of pro cheer to connect and give and receive support, because the transition when you stop dancing on a team, like I said, is just sometimes difficult. And the idea is you won't do it alone. You'll have a support group essentially, but it's about health and fitness. And I'm trying to read from the blurb here, but it's about catering to the beautiful, strong, fierce, and confident woman through health coaching, fitness training, and fun dance routines. Okay, anyways, all right, so Pro Dance Boys, Sister Space, and Poms Up Pom Queens on Facebook. So check them out. They're there as, like I said, a support and a way to talk and connect and all of those good things, and support one another. Okay, you guys ready to talk about the name change? I'm sure you guys are all following the news. The Washington Redskins are no longer the Washington Redskins. The name is still TBD, but we all know that it's a racial slur. I think there have been so many articles, so much activism around this name change happening for quite some time, and Daniel Snyder was just like, I'm not doing it. I'm not changing it. But, the day and time that we're living in, people are feeling more pressure to do the right thing. Companies are using their voices in terms of their dollars, their sponsorship dollars, their naming rights on stadiums and making threats. And it actually, lo and behold, convinced him to change the name. Okay, so I don't know how you guys feel about it, but I think it's the right move. And unfortunately, it shouldn't have taken financial pressure for him to cave. But whatever, it's happening. So I think it's something to celebrate. And on the other hand, I will say, I've been looking at everybody's posts, some of the cheerleaders, and whether it's alumni or current cheerleaders, and I think they have absolutely been very respectful of the change and kind of embracing it. But it's also, sad because last year's squad is, they're the last of the Washington Redskins cheerleaders, and, you have your own identity associated with your team name, and they have the first ladies of football, but, they've been WRC. They used to be Redskinettes, let's be real. And then it was Washington Redskins cheerleaders, and now they're just going to have to be something else. And yeah, people are saying the name should have changed a long time ago. Amen. And money talks. Yes, it absolutely does. All the time. So they'll just have to embrace, a new identity and know that, it doesn't really change who you are as a cheerleading team, obviously, but it's an identity crisis. I'm still bitter, and I'm not even going to act like I'm mature about it. I don't like that the Seahawks changed the Seagulls name. I mean, Seagull sounds a little corny and everything, but, they're seagulls. People would make fun of it, but that was who we were. So it was not an easy change to embrace when they changed it to the Seahawks dancers. I mean, I'm not on the team anymore, but, we obviously are kind of wiped from history, and I don't love it. I mean, it's kind of bland. I mean, there were just cutesy names for the cheerleading teams that I think fit to some extent. So I feel you girls a little bit, and I know you guys are just willing to kind of move forward and in the right direction, and you'll represent well. So I'm not worried, but I don't even want to say kudos. It's just kind of okay, fine. Finally, we did it. The name is changing. So I don't want to blow it up too much. But, will the Kansas City Chiefs be next? I mean, there's some teams in the Major League Baseball, NHL. So start reviewing it, people, before your sponsors start talking. I just think it's something that's long overdue, and make it happen. Okay, so that's that. All right. You guys ready for the Rona update? My last Rona update until we actually have a season going on. Let's hope. So, okay. So, the NBA players have been arriving in Orlando into the bubble, and they had some testing. I don't even know. They're just testing prior to getting there, I believe. But 2 out of 322 players tested positive during their quarantine period. Because I think once they travel there, they have to quarantine and test. And so 2 out of 322 is like 1%. It's not bad. They're going to try to keep the Rona out of the bubble. But, Russell Westbrook, he tested positive on Monday before he even left for Orlando. So it's definitely keeping your eyes on the bubble and just seeing how this social experiment's even going to work. Because again, NFL, other sports, they're not in a bubble. So if they can't contain the Rona being in a bubble, then I think that's a pretty strong indicator of what you can expect. I've already talked about that to nauseam. Ideally, next season, we'll know more and it won't be this looming what if and what's going to happen. But people just need to kind of put it on the shelf until 2021, okay? Like college football needs to can it. I know the Ivy League was the first conference to kind of announce that they're just not doing it. I think not until January or something like that of next year. But decisions are going to have to be made and they're going to have to just quit, smoking pipe, whatever. You know what I'm trying to say? I need to eat dinner before I go live so that I can think clearly. But basically, I think it's just like a pipe dream to think that football is going to happen. It's the most high contact sport that you can even think about. And, that's a segue into my next point. I shared it in my story. I always try to give you guys perspective so that you can kind of think beyond cheerleading and understand how so much still relates to it. And there's so many similarities and commonalities in some of the issues. But I shared J.C. Tretter. He's the center for the Cleveland Browns, and he's also the president of the NFL Players Association, their union, for those who don't know. I wish we had one. We need to get one. I keep saying I'm going to get somebody on the podcast to talk about what unionization means and looks like. And I know we're a long way to go from that because we'd all have to stick together to refuse to dance until we unionize and lots of other requirements around it. But anyway, they have a union and it's geared towards protecting their rights. And he drafted an open letter. So I'm not the only one who's drafting open letters out there. But it's called Protecting the Rights of Football Players. And I'm going to just share some key points that I think resonate with some of the things that I've been running my mouth about for the longest time. But, he said that there's a lot of misconceptions out there in the press and with fans that he wanted to dispel so that people stay focused on what they need to, which is just protecting their health and their rights during this quarantine and this pandemic, so that they're not just, risking their lives out on the field for the sake of football and money, basically. So let's just see if any of these things sound familiar and just imagine what it would be like if we had a union that could raise these issues for us as necessary. We ain't got one, so here we go. One of the myths is like playing in the NFL is a privilege, not a right. Some, fans have that attitude, the teams have that attitude, owners have that attitude. He says the attempt to frame your occupation as a privilege is a way to make you feel like you should be happy with whatever you get versus exercising your right to fight for more protections and benefits. I'm just saying this because we should have the same mentality about our role as pro cheerleaders. I know it's a lot of I'm just happy to be in the uniform. I'm just, this is such a coveted spot and it's a privilege, not a right. And I get that, but that's played because you're getting played and your rights might be getting infringed upon, and you gotta shift. This is still a job and everybody's entitled to certain protections as an employee from your employer. And I just thought that he made that point very, very well in his open letter. Another one was you should just play for the love of the game. And he said, being passionate about your job shouldn't prevent you from seeking better pay, benefits, and work rules from your employer. Like every other worker, we should always work to maximize what we get for our services and realize our full value. So again, just speaking to knowing your worth, and don't get it twisted. Just because you love it and you're passionate about it doesn't mean that you aren't worthy of getting the pay that you deserve and the protections that you deserve. There's themes here, but another good point. People say, just go play. You're young and healthy. You will all be fine. We need sports back. And he said, we are not invincible. And as recent reports have shown, we certainly aren't immune to this virus. NFL players are humans, some with immunocompromised family members or live-in elderly parents. Trust me, we want to play football, but as a union, Our most important job is to keep our players safe and alive. The NFL Players Association will fight for our most at-risk players and their families. Again, unless you're living alone, whatever life that you lead on these teams, I'm speaking to you as pro cheerleaders, you're also kind of impacting others in your life, your family, your boyfriend, whoever you live with. It goes beyond yourself, and they are definitely keeping in mind that a lot of these players, and there was another good point that I didn't take out here, but just that a lot of the NFL players suffer from certain types of, health conditions, whether it's asthma or diabetes or different things. And so they're kind of at risk too in terms of playing and, subjecting themselves to the risk of getting the Rona with their underlying health conditions. So it's just stuff that they are thinking about, and they are trying to, get everybody on the same page so that they're not losing sight of the ball, so to speak. And the last point I wanted to share was, the comment that I had to go back to work, you should have to go back too. And he said, it is a responsibility of the employer to provide a safe work environment. I encourage all workers to hold their employers accountable to high standards. The NFLPA will be diligent as we demand that the NFL provide us the safest workplace possible. I do not believe conversations about returning to work should be a race to the lowest common denominator among employees across different professions in different industries. We are all workers fighting for the same things: better pay, better benefits, and better work rules. No worker should be complacent with their rights because they have what others outside their business deem good enough. Instead of racing to the bottom, let's push each other to the top. I thought it was well written, very to the point. It's like any other job. I told my boss straight up, I don't want to go back to the office until I have enough assurances that I won't be more at risk than I am staying home. Period. I know there's no social distancing in this open space environment that we have. I don't want to be sitting there at work freaking out, about people touching things. And it's just, I'm not going to go back to work until I have enough comfort that I will be protected. And so I just think that the NFLPA is doing what they should be doing to look out for the players. Obviously, they're, in the full contact sport, and they are the most at risk with going back to football. But just know that these are things that they're pushing for, and they have the similar concerns that we've been talking about on the podcast. And I just thought, just for some context and understanding that I'm not the only one that writes open letters, and it's just a way of communicating and fleshing some issues out. So keep your eyes on the prize, you guys, during this time, and make sure that you feel comfortable with how you're going into your season. That's all I'm going to say for the last time during Cheer Chat. Like I said, I know we've touched on this a lot. And I don't want to just read the open letter, but let's shift gears to the open letter that I drafted. You guys have been very, very instrumental in putting the thoughts together to put into this open letter. So again, I just want to say thank you for just engaging with me over these last few weeks. It's been rough, and there's been a lot of emotions, but a lot of good conversations around this diversity and inclusion in pro cheerleading. There have been some incidents that have happened with the Sixers, just different triggers. And I think we've all experienced in our own team or our own setting how this touches pro cheerleading. And I just tried to put all of that into words that reflected what I heard during the town hall that we had, during the episode that we had called Freedom, where we talked about what it's like to be a Black cheerleader in the NFL, since all of them were NFL cheerleaders. But I've gotten some input from some wonderful people that I trust, and I just want to thank them as well. But I just felt like it took a while because, I don't know, the words really weren't coming to me the way that I just needed things to be quiet for a minute, obviously. But I'm just so glad that it came, because these are things that I'm sure people have been fighting for and talking about for a very, very long time, probably, at the expense of their career, because, if you become the squeaky wheel that's always talking about race, or things just don't seem like they're ever going to change, people tune you out. You kind of are just known as that person maybe, but it's a fight that's worthy of just, until you're blue in the face, constantly raising until this changes. And I just feel like the momentum is now to, again, get these changes on the table. And I definitely welcome, feedback and input from you guys in terms of where to go from here. Last year, when I did the open letter to the NBA, I had it sounded kind of psychotic maybe in terms of tagging people and really, really pushing the issue in front of as many execs, that I can research. And this was, because I was targeting certain teams in the NBA, right? But I think with this open letter, I'm just hoping that whether it's you guys that are sharing the open letter with your directors, just to say, hey, I don't know if you've seen this. I don't want to ghostwrite your emails, but I think it's written in a tone that's not as confrontational, to the point. And you guys know me and the way that I talk. I think it's just not as I'm pissed off because of a decision you made and I'm going to let you know how I feel about it like last year. So I'm hoping that this is a conversation starter, and I'm planning to kind of share the open letter with some of the directors, in the NBA and NFL, and just asking them if they wouldn't mind sharing it. I don't have email addresses of people's directors. If y'all wanted me to email your director, I could do that on, from the Pro Cheerleading Podcast Gmail account. I mean, I can email them all as a group, BCC'd, and just letting them know that this was something that tries to articulate the concerns of our community, and what they do with it. I'm hoping that they'll talk to each other. I'm hoping that, they'll figure out some best practices from some teams that seem to do it right. I'm hoping that they will talk about it with their team, and I'm hoping they'll make some goddamn changes. I mean, there's hella bullets in here of things they can do that I think are not controversial. Maybe some take a little bit of work and brainstorming, but they need to happen. But I do encourage you guys to read it. I mean, I have stats in there. I did a diversity survey that a lot of you guys participated in last year, just to give some context of why this is a problem and issue in terms of diversity and representation. And so I think it's thorough. If I left anything out, y'all know you can hit me up and let me know. I just really appreciate you guys sharing input with me. I think to the extent you can kind of use this as a tool to get conversations started, please do let me know how I can help in that. I just think we all kind of have to be raising our hands to speak to these issues together, or just forever hold your peace about it. It's a chance for us to actually do something in our space to fix some things that have been broken for quite some time. So this is my best crack at it. I appreciate all of you, like I said, and I'd love to hear feedback. Y'all got to let me know what you think and what's missing, how we can utilize it, how it should be put on blast, how we can share it, post it, promote it, etc. I have some things that I'm still working on in terms of that. I will miss you guys, but I'm excited to take some time to chill the hell out, enjoy whatever summer Seattle has for us. It's just now starting to get warm. I hope you guys all stay safe. Obviously, we've been talking about the Rona, but it's been getting worse in some areas, and I just think we all have to be diligent in taking care of ourselves. And again, I won't be far. I will keep an eye on things. And if anything pops off, I'm just going to get back on live and talk, call it a bonus episode, whatever. But I'm going to keep you guys posted and speak on things that come up. I'll keep you posted on what I plan to try to do with this letter. I just encourage the dialogue to continue, because I think this is just one of hopefully many conversations on this topic. August 19th, I will be back refreshed and all that good stuff with a good lineup of people. If you guys have ideas for episodes, ideas of people to interview, I always have a list. Well, actually not for this season. This season was just fly by the seat of your pants, getting where you fit in kind of a thing. But I hope to put together a good slate of people for season 7. Think about how we can use this letter to move things forward. Okay, I got a little shy about reading this open letter during Cheer Chat Live, but I do want to, for the listeners of the podcast, read the letter so that they understand and it's documented forever and ever what was in the letter. And maybe it'll have some, commentary throughout. Who knows? Because I got to keep it spicy enough so that people aren't put to sleep. So here we go. This is the open letter to the pro cheerleading community on diversity and inclusion. This is an open letter from the Pro Cheerleading podcast to represent the voices of pro cheerleaders in the discussion of why and how pro cheerleading needs to become more racially diverse and inclusive. Our community of current alumni and aspiring pro cheerleaders have witnessed the human rights epidemic of police brutality and inexcusable murders of Black people in the United States, giving rise to the Black Lives Matter movement. We have looked to the pro sports teams that we cheer for to exemplify leadership and take action on this human rights issue, not political issue. Some teams have publicly declared their commitment to support Black Lives Matter, to listen to their Black employees, and explore ways to address racism within their organizations. Why should pro cheerleading be excluded from this unprecedented moment in history to explore ways of eradicating racism in our own industry? Pro cheerleaders are expected to serve as ambassadors in the community for pro sports teams to support a variety of social causes and community initiatives, which should now include the Black Lives Matter movement. Yet, the racial composition of the pro cheerleading teams does not reflect the demographics of the pro athletes they cheer for or the city or communities in which they serve. Based on the first pro cheerleading diversity survey conducted by the Pro Cheerleading podcast in 2019, Black women represent only 17% of NFL cheerleaders and 23% of NBA dancers, and the percentages of Asian and Hispanic cheerleaders were under 10% each. Even if minorities find a place on these teams, because of systemic racism in pro cheerleading, they more than likely are unable to raise awareness and fight against racial injustices within their teams or jeopardize their dance career by doing so. So I broke out this letter to kind of speak to three different audiences: the pro cheerleaders, pro cheerleading directors, and the pro sports teams. This is the section geared towards pro cheerleaders. Pro cheerleaders play an important role in the sports entertainment industry, and we have the collective power to shape the future of the pro cheerleading community for the better. The notion that we are replaceable and powerless, or that our worth on a team is insignificant, must be challenged. The culture of fear against using our voices to speak out about issues in order to keep our spot as a pro cheerleader must be dispelled. We need to come together to fight against the racial injustices happening in our own backyard. We must be willing to do some soul searching to ask whether we are part of the problem and what can we do to be a part of the solution. Are we speaking up about injustices when they are committed against us? Are we silent instead of supporting others who have been wronged on our team? Have we engaged in any racial microaggressions, whether intentionally or not, that resulted in our teammates or people of color feeling devalued and insulted? Are we a part of the mean girl culture, ostracizing those who speak out about racial injustices to protect our ideal of sisterhood or to secure favor with the team director? What are we doing to make the pro cheerleading community better for the rookies and youth who look to us as role models and will one day follow in our footsteps? And this is just really a call out. I didn't want to come off as like preachy. I know that sometimes pro cheerleaders feel really limited in what they're able to do, but the truth of the matter is you are more powerful than you think. You guys are bright. You have wonderful careers. You're multifaceted in so many ways. And this is just not a time to cower and, be afraid to stand in your power to say what's right and what you want our community to be like in the future. I just think if there are injustices on your team specifically that you're involved in, know about, it's just time to show up and represent for each other, for your sisters and brothers on these teams. And the more you use your voice, I think now is the time that you actually have a captive audience that will come behind you. I mean, just look at Yane. For the whole thing that happened with the Sixers. So that's my commentary on that piece. This next section is geared towards pro cheerleading directors. There is an acknowledgement that to some extent, your hands may be tied by your organizations of making meaningful changes to your program. Your expertise, decisions, and opinions regarding leading your team may not be fully respected by management, and you may also fear losing your coveted position of being a director in this industry. Cheers to the progressive directors who are leading programs in a better direction. For those of you who refuse to look at ways to improve the way you lead your team, your time will soon be up. There is a plethora of resources to educate yourself. Take a critical look at your management skills and seek input from your current and former cheerleaders of how you can improve the diversity and inclusion of your program. It's long overdue, but the time is now, so just do it. And here are a few ideas. And here's a long list, okay? So I'm sure it's not obviously inclusive of everything, but these are the things that came to mind thanks to some wonderful input from you all. So again, thank you for taking the time to read this and give some good ideas of things that should be changed and addressed by these pro cheerleading directors. 1, encourage and support people of color to wear their hair naturally instead of insisting upon one beauty standard for team makeovers or eliminating them from consideration in auditions. 2, consider the various skin tones of your team members when selecting uniforms that appear nude or sheer, as well as any mandatory makeup requirements. 3, celebrate racial diversity by providing equal opportunities to minorities throughout the season, not just during auditions. So this is getting to how the directors lead the team and make certain decisions and the way that they manage and promote and market their cheerleaders. So some of the examples giving were selection for formations. People are constantly talking about how the people of color are always, they're never in the front and center, in the back, on the side. Just think about formations and how you may always put the same type or the same people in the front. And granted, they are going to be your strong performers and whatnot, but just think about optics and really question what your unconscious bias might be in terms of deciding who are the best of your group of cheerleaders to represent you, who's selected for squad leaders, who are selected for appearances, who's selected for your show group. Thinking about representation in marketing collateral, like who you use in social media posts, whether it's print, posters, digital, your calendar, things of that nature. Just thinking about diversity and inclusion in that respect. 4, reevaluate your judging criteria and diversity of your judging panel to improve the representation of different racial minorities and different perspectives. Frankly, it's not in there. That's my little add-on. But basically, different racial minorities in your auditions process and team selection. So to improve that, maybe you need to switch up your judging panel or reconsider what you're evaluating your candidates off of. What does the look really mean, especially if you're trying to take into account diversity? Number 5, reconsider the body types good enough to wear your uniform, reflected by the women on your team, as they likely disproportionately impact people of color for not fitting into this box. I can't lie, this was kind of addressed more or less to DCC, I gotta say. It's just really frustrating to see how that uniform, as iconic as it is just so, just has a very disproportionate impact on women of color for not fitting into it. And I just think they can evolve a little bit better than that. Still getting wonderful athletes, but not everybody looking like a stick in order to fit into it. Does that make sense? All right, number 7, when evaluating auditions candidates, do not pit racial minorities against one another to make your selection. For example, comparing 2 Asian dancers when the same practice doesn't apply to white women unless based on hair color. Like, we all know that these rosters have 10 blondes. So they're not putting 2 white women, and making kind of final decisions based on I'm picking 1 blonde. No, they pick 10 blondes. So I think sometimes, minorities can be unfairly pitted against one another. Like they can only take one of them. And it's just broaden that scope. I'm not a judge and can't really speak to the different criteria or the judging process per se, but I can imagine that there's plenty other attributes that you can compare in judging candidates than acting like you have to choose between 2 black girls, or you know what I mean? Because that's how some of the pro cheerleaders interpret that, like they have to compete with other people of color, and it shouldn't be the case at all. Number 8, create a new recruitment and outreach strategy in communities of color to increase the turnout at auditions by holding audition clinics and Q&A sessions and establishing a connection with minority-owned dance studios and dancers. I know for, the Seahawks, they did some recruitment at the local colleges, and I think, if you really dig into some of these communities, since you only have to be 18 to audition, there are some inner city high schools that you could make an attempt to connect with so that you can start grooming a more diverse group of people to show up at auditions. And we can get rid of this stupid argument that nobody shows up that can actually handle your style or has the technique. Number 9, Open up discussions about race as part of squad bonding and team building during orientation and or training camp to make it clear from the outset that it is a priority to create a safe space for all races. And lastly, pay close attention to squad dynamics for the minorities on the team, especially if you only have one person of color, one black girl, one Asian woman. Pay attention to how they're doing and how they're acclimating on the team so that they are not subject to bullying or being left out of social activities. Have a zero tolerance policy for hate and racism, and hold teammates accountable throughout the season if they fail to uphold these standards. It starts with these directors. They're the closest to managing this group of women and men. And if they implement any of these changes, and dang it, why not all of them? These are small things that would make a huge impact and difference. So this final section is geared toward the pro sports teams. The message to management of pro sports teams is simple. Respect and elevate the voices of your pro cheerleaders as key contributors in upholding the values of your organization and supporting your community efforts in response to the Black Lives Matter movement. This can be demonstrated by taking the following steps. 1. Include pro cheerleaders in all aspects of employee engagement, especially any meetings or similar events meant to discuss organizational changes that impact them, representation of the organization on social issues, and diversity and inclusion in the workplace. Sometimes we're part of the organization, part of the team, and sometimes we're not. So it's really we're employees and we represent you out in the community. So include us in all of these meetings and things of that nature that impact us while we're out there on the front lines with the community. The second point is to require pro cheerleaders and directors to participate in a mandatory diversity and inclusion training and establish measurable metrics to demonstrate progress toward specific objectives set for the pro cheerleading program to increase and improve diversity and inclusion. So this is basically saying there should be a mandatory diversity and inclusion training. Pro cheerleaders and directors should go. And then coming out of that, they should be establishing certain objectives to basically improve the pro cheerleading program. We just listed 10 of them as to how they're going to try to improve diversity and inclusion. And then they should be measured against that. How well did they address those points throughout the season? That should be part of how the directors are evaluated to keep their jobs. What did you do to improve diversity and inclusion this year? How's the team look compared to last year? What have we done in the community? They should have to answer to that. Number 3 was establish a secure and confidential ethics and compliance hotline available to pro cheerleaders to make a complaint that they are unable to safely address directly with their team directors. It's like a whistleblower policy for pro cheerleaders. I think if we had this, some of these issues probably wouldn't have resulted in lawsuits, and when things bubbled up the management chain, they probably would have had a better chance of hopefully being handled properly. But establishing a hotline that's confidential would go a long way in our community. Create a policy prohibiting acts of retaliation against whistleblowers to help eliminate the culture of fear of being blackballed or cut from the team during auditions, and influence more pro cheerleaders to speak up about injustices. So not only do you have this confidential way for them to raise issues, there's no retaliation. You have to ensure that it's safe for them to do so. And that means you can't blackball them or cut them as a way of silencing them. So the last point is just, again, to have a zero tolerance policy for hate and racism for pro cheerleaders and team directors. Independently investigate complaints and take meaningful action to enforce violations of your policies and hold offenders accountable. So maybe what some of these teams need, just based on some of the reports, is an independent body, law firm. I mean, there's so many different, diversity and inclusion, corporate training programs, the consultants. Maybe you need to have an independent third party investigate complaints and, provide recommendations as to what needs to be done, because we all know how politics work. And if people are trying to protect people and cover things up, we need to kind of ensure that there's some integrity in the way these things are handled. The situation with Yana comes to mind of when you go all the way up the chain and nothing is done because people are kind of having each other's backs around it. So that's the final point for pro sports teams. And in conclusion, I said pro cheerleaders of all races deserve to be treated with equal respect and dignity by each other, our directors, and our pro sports teams. We should be a part of the social activism promised by our pro sports team to help hold them and each other accountable in the community. There are many ways to improve diversity and inclusion in the pro cheerleading community. Let this open letter be the first of many ongoing conversations toward that goal. That was a mouthful, but just needed to be said. And again, it just reflects a lot of the input that I've received from you all, things and ideas that I've had while I was a pro cheerleader in the NFL for 5 years, and things that I would always come to mind of like, we can actually do better. So let's just freaking do better. And again, I welcome continuous feedback from you guys as to how this open letter can hopefully be a tool for you to have conversations with your director and with your teammates. With that, I'm going to kick it over to the interview with Neely Neal for the episode.
Hello.
How are you doing?
Oh, good. How have you been?
Crazy, but good. Well, welcome to the Pro Cheerleading Podcast, Neely. I really appreciate you joining us and taking us to I think, a very comfortable and familiar space of what people can do in retirement to reconnect with their bodies in a way and with other people in this sport, that have that in common in terms of that passion for dancing and cheering professionally. But before I start, let me just ask you to take us through your background. You were an Arizona Cardinals cheerleader for a while. So tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll get into Go Fit Win.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. And it's so fun to talk with you because it really does solidify, it just feels like I'm talking to someone I was on the squad with. I mean, you feel like a squad sister to me. And that's so validating, and you have just such a wonderful presence and welcoming vibe, and I love it. I love listening to you, and then now it's a pleasure to talk with you. So thank you for what you do. And yeah, I did dance for the Cardinals. I was a Cardinals cheerleader for 4 seasons. Back in 2005 was my first rookie season. And fortunately for me, I cheered during the Super Bowl run for the Cardinals. So got to be a captain for the last 2 years of my time on the team. And one of those years was our Super Bowl run. So didn't get that Super Bowl ring, but you know how that goes. It's up to the team at that point. But yeah, it's been about a decade now. Doesn't feel like that long ago, but officially retired, after the 2009 season. So
time goes by so quickly.
It does. Yeah.
Tell us briefly, what you've been up to in retirement. You are a mother of triplets. Your daughter is your oldest, right? And then you have triplets. But tell us what else you've been up to in retirement and kind of what led to you launching Go Fit Win.
Yes, thank you.
That's probably a big gap of time to cover, but
I appreciate it. I mean, I think I can summarize in a nutshell though, because after retirement, I danced a little bit later in my years. I think I was, 30 going on 31 in my final season. So a little bit older than some of my teammates at that point. I'd say I was ready to kind of move on and start ticking some of the boxes, get married, have kids, go pursue the career, So that's what I did. That's what I've been doing this last decade of my life. I work in the tech industry and I've been really involved and invested in growing a family, obviously with triplets. That's big. That was a big surprise, but just such blessings. So yes, I have 4 children now. My daughter's 4. The boys will be 2 come August. Wow. And we've just got, a mini circus around us all the time right now.
Especially now, right?
Yes. Yeah.
We're not having to homeschool.
Yeah, we missed that window. Yeah, it's all just toddler craziness right now, but at least it's not with, expectations of homework. So I do feel blessed for that.
Seriously.
Yeah. I think for me, what I found in the last 10 years of kind of putting the pom-poms on the shelf was that even though, life had moved on and, felt like I was checking all the boxes and pursuing other passions, something was still just kind of in the background, nudging me, not to forget about cheer and dance. Cheerleading and dance has been, a part of my life and a source of joy for me for so long. And I think others, that have gone all the way into a pro career can relate to how many hours and just not just the time and training that you've put in, but also just the real love of the passion of dance. And what I hear the most from other retired cheerleaders is not necessarily that they miss the dancing as the top item. It's they miss their sisterhood or they miss their teammates. Yeah. So that was item number one. And second to that was obviously, I wish I had that six-pack back.
Don't we all?
Yes. Yes, and I can relate to that too. Definitely after triplets, that six-pack, I don't know, it might be in there, but it's definitely covered up. So
yeah. Let's talk everybody through what Go Fit Win is about, because it sounds like that may have been partly what influenced you to start it.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's I felt a little disconnected. And even though, day-to-day life was happening and career woman, mother of four, wife, all the duties, all of the responsibilities, I was happily doing them, but I felt like my sense of self wasn't necessarily fulfilled or connected to the joy that I once had. And I knew that it was slowly kind of eating away at me. I just wasn't as fulfilled and happy as I wanted to be. And I think in cheerleading we use the term full out, right? And I felt like the years that I danced and cheered professionally, I was living life very vibrantly. It was full out all the time.
Yeah.
And I was missing that. And it wasn't a sense of wanting to go back and do it all over again. I'm very thankful that's all been in my past. It's experience now. But I did want to reconnect and restore the joy in my life. And I thought I can't be the only one feeling this way when others had told me that they have a hard time meeting other women or friends that just get it. They just sort of understand you and your passion for dance and cheer. And so that's what Go Fit Win is about. It's really about bringing women together and restoring that joy in your life through cheerleading and dance, because, we share that background and it's not something that we have to necessarily put on the shelf forever. That's my view.
Yes, absolutely. Well, because you're so right about just wanting that bond and connection, because, you all make your friends through cheerleading and you stay in touch and you talk about those types of things of like what everybody kind of struggles with, especially after you retire. And
Yes.
that they get it, but it's also the idea of being able to take a fitness journey together where it's not necessarily completely focused on fitness. It's just like we can all get together and dance together. I mean, if I would say my number one activity hanging with my girls, it probably isn't, as much as I love traveling with them, as much as I love going out with them and brunching with them. If we got into a studio and danced together like old times, I probably would melt. I can tear up just thinking about it, because those were the times that I loved the most, when we'd practice together and, we'd watch each other dance, we'd, just help each other. And that is one of the beautiful things that you really, really miss the most. And you just can't really recreate that,
That's right.
If we all go to the gym together, it's just not how it goes. We need somebody to teach us something. We need to be able to practice it. And we're not going to do our old routines the whole time, can barely remember them, but something where we all can do it together. And that would be just so good for the soul, I think, because it's the joy, like you said, that you miss of having that camaraderie there. That's what we spend the majority of our time doing, is really practicing for that 1.5 minute or so that we're out there, at least for the time out. So I think that's so awesome. So is the structure virtual? Do you have what's the format of the program?
Yeah, the year 2020 has kind of changed that for the time being, but right now it's an online membership. So there is monthly choreography. Then there is squad practices. Right now those are virtual, but I wanted the pop-up classes to feel like you're back at practice. So each month we share a new full Pom routine, some sideline cardio. So everyone kind of gets a fresh bit of material, but I didn't want it to also be overwhelming because I also realize, people have lives outside of cheerleading and dance. We're not just solely dedicated to this anymore. So it is a realistic amount of material, and it's if and when you want to go pick it up, after your kids go to bed or after you're winding down and you just want that workout in your living room.
Right. Something that you actually look forward to doing. And I mean, not to interrupt you, but just to pause there, because I think for people who want to dance again, but we're not in audition prep mode. So
Right.
As amazing as these programs look, and it's, yes, a great opportunity to dance with some choreographers, woo, woo, woo. But for me, it's too much for me, for somebody who's not in the game of wanting to audition.
Yeah, it's intense.
I agree. The intensity level
is
completely different, and it's for its intended purpose. But I think what attracted me to the idea of what you were talking about with Go Fit Win is just, it's realistic for this audience and kind of what we're looking to get out of it, right? It's just something that you have for yourself to look forward to.
Exactly.
I think it's so great. I'm sorry, I'm just cheesing, but I think
thank you. Well, it's validation. It really is. Because I found myself in that same problem space. I was Googling, dance classes near me, adult dance classes near me, and then it's all ballroom dancing.
Yeah.
When you Google adult dance class, it usually is like an Arthur Murray advertisement or something. So,
yeah.
And then there's, like you mentioned, there's prep classes, but then you inevitably end up there with maybe one or two alums that you beg them to come with you. But
right.
You're in a room full of, women that are trying to make the squad, and it's a different vibe. It's a different intensity. And, and you don't want to bring in those shadows of doubt when you're just trying to go there and have a good time either, feeling like you're not what you used to be, body-wise, fit-wise. It conjures up maybe just the wrong space for wanting to really bring joy back into your life. So, it's like two ends of the spectrum. You can go to Zumba class and follow along and, have a high energy experience, but it's not the same as the counted choreography, the hard hitting, power pom kind of little techniques thrown in there, here and there. But the mental challenge of learning choreography was really what I was looking for and not finding. So, bringing back that counted choreography and just learning some fresh, new, cute routine every now and then, what I really wanted.
Something where
my friends want to learn it with me.
Yeah, something that has the same sass, and just where you feel like you can just sell it. Because sometimes, not that choreo, I don't want to speak for the choreo in terms of it being too challenging or not too challenging, but just one of the things of what I noticed lately is just the choreography style. So it's not even advanced. It's not that it's advanced. It's just, it's so packed with so much that it doesn't remind me of at least my time, where I think there were just more opportunities to execute and milk and just sell and have fun with it, where I would be so focused on what the moves are and obviously lots and lots of practice, maybe get past that, but I just like the idea of just having fun choreography.
Yeah, and you're tapping into it.
Yeah,
you're tapping into that performance aspect.
Yes.
You don't want to just go to a master class like, at some dance convention. You want to be in a performance-based choreography that just sits on you and looks awesome when you're going full out,
Yes.
So yeah, that's exactly it. So we do put out fresh material every month, but then there's a whole backlog of, a video library where you can go in and pick and choose. And we do have choreography that has some technique in it and some that's just fun, grab your palms and shake them kind of routine. So it's really just, what you're up for. And our squad practices have turned out to be really great too, because we've had to do them all online, virtual with Zoom. But it's a group of people that come to practice prepared. We've learned the same choreography and we're running through it, and you're getting a good sweat and a good, mental sweat as well. So it's really been special. It's growing, but we are looking for new members. I think the strength is in the numbers, right? So the more connections we can foster and the more locales that people can start to connect in real life is the ultimate goal.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. Once we're in past the Rona, the idea would be for people to be able to meet up locally and have maybe an instructor, an actual like a class setting, so that you're having practice
Exactly.
together.
You
That
got it.
that would be really cool. That's what I mean, that's what we're all striving for at some point, right? It's just to get the
Yes.
heck out of our homes and be able
That's right.
to. How
Just
do
a
you,
hug. I just want to hug some other, humans.
I know. How are you finding the Zoom platform for you, just out of curiosity, for holding dance classes? Because I know in asking for feedback about virtual auditions, some people have been commenting just on, some of the difficulties. So I was just curious from your
Yeah.
perspective if you
Yeah, it's
how the
interesting.
platform fit
So
you. It doesn't seem like it was meant for dance, but we're
it
making do.
wasn't. Yeah, so part of my technical brain is like, it's a really solid, good product. But then my dance brain is like,
Yeah.
it could be better. I think everyone's kind of making do with the
Yeah.
tools that we have at hand, and I appreciate it for the connection aspects. But it's hard. Sometimes the audio, it depends on if it's picking up your voice or the song.
Yeah.
But the nice thing is, I send out the music for all of my members ahead of time too. So even if Zoom is kind of freaking out on you, you can always, after squad practice ends, just turn that mix on and go full out yourself.
Right. No, we're all totally making do with. I'm just excited that you were able to launch it and not, have to wait it out, especially because of kind of the uncertainty of how long we'll be in this space. But I think it's great for people who, again, audition season's passing. I'm sure there's probably going to be a lull before NBA teams are really picking up with their own auditions process if they have a season for next year, depending on how this little guinea pig situation goes in Florida, in Orlando. But for people who are wanting to get back to dancing or have a lower pressure around continuing to keep in shape and continuing to dance than just staying in heavy duty audition prep mode for the next 9 months. I mean, this has been really rough, I think, particularly for people. I just think, this opportunity to dance with a supportive group of people would just be a great way to just, not even just like about staying in shape, but just, or getting in shape, but just connecting back with dance. I really appreciate that that's part of, or the focus of like finding that joy with dance, because I think we work so hard at it sometimes that it can become less fun, if that makes any sense. Like if I were somebody that's gone through, like, especially the virtual auditions process and have been busting my butt probably since January for this extended 6-month auditions process, essentially, like, dancing would have probably been more of a little bit of a chore. As much as you love dancing, it probably would have hit me as just like frustrating and something I'm dreading and I know I need to do because I need to be on top of it, but not something that I just get to take a deep breath and enjoy again. So I'm excited to share this with everyone just because I think it might be a cool way to decompress, but still remain active.
Yeah, thank you. I do think the mental aspect of fitness is super important too. For me personally, I'm just, I guess I'll speak for myself here and not presume to know everybody's mental state. But for me, I mean, this was even pre-COVID. I was still feeling like the doldrums of everyday life and like there has to be more. Go Fit Win was filling a void for me, just getting out of the day-to-day sort of adulting doldrums. You go into a rhythm and it just feels a little disconnected and not getting those endorphins and the adrenaline and just the mental challenge of learning choreography, but the connectedness of being with others was starting to, eat away at me. So I think that connectedness is a big part of this, and why I'm very much looking forward to a post-COVID world too, where our only connectivity isn't limited to Zoom, and these virtual practices, because that's where I think a lot of the magic is for us.
Absolutely. It's just feeling like because I mean, and it's not even just in terms of networking, but just like the opportunity to meet new people, hearing their stories. Because I think even with the podcast, the idea of just like interviewing people who maybe walked a similar path but have their own unique story, and just being able to make those connections with people locally, or where you're able to kind of talk after, go have a drink or eat after, and just kind of get to know one another. That's going to be, the real extra special magic of what you're doing, because people will just grow a new extension of the sisterhood in retirement, which I think you have your friends, but sometimes you lose contact and touch, and things, life changes for certain people, and it implicates your circle, so to speak, in terms of who you can really spend time with, and that wants to connect on that level. So it will definitely, I can totally relate to like what you're saying. You get into the whole drum of just the day in, day out, it becomes easier to like not prioritize time for yourself. I mean, I hear that time
Exactly.
again as you are adulting. You have families, you have different demands on you, and what you really wanted to do with your days, like the last on the list. And that's when that, I think for me, I'll speak to, like you said, I can't speak to everybody else's mental state, but for me, I know that's when I started to feel the void from not dancing, was that I didn't have anything for me anymore. And when you're part of these teams, I mean, it's crazy, it takes over your life, but that's your thing. You're completely engrossed in your life as a pro cheerleader, and it's just for you. I mean, for me, it felt like my own private joy that nobody could touch. It was mine, and I got to pour my whole self into it. And I think that's the part that ends up feeling like it's missing when you don't have that outlet.
Yeah, I think even dancers, cheerleaders, whether they were pro or even collegiate or high school, I mean, everyone kind of remembers that moment when they decide to hang up their dance shoes or put the Poms on the shelf, and there's a feeling of what's next, feel a little bit lost, have to recalibrate a little bit. And especially now when responsibilities knocking on the door and you're filling up everybody else's cup before your own, it's just it's a scary place to be. And so even now, with triplets running around and a 4-year-old who's as energetic as the 3 of them combined, it's like, I still need to carve out time for myself. I mean, I need to make this happen. And so a lot of times, it's dancing after they go to bed. And it's just, thankfully I'm a supportive, partner and husband who is like, yes, go do you. If you need Tuesday, Thursday nights, like you used to have Tuesday, Thursday night practice, then you just go do you. So, I'm count my blessings for sure. But part of that is just prioritizing. And at the end of the day, sometimes I don't have a lot of energy, but then I turn the music on and that switch flips.
Yeah, I know that feeling. I definitely feeling. I mean, not recently enough, but I definitely know where you just end up just getting energy out of nowhere to get moving and to do what you love. And I just think, I mean, not to go back to just like the whole body image and all of that, but it's just so connected, because when you are able to make time to something that you look forward to doing, which is, like you said, the music comes on, you're thinking of the cute choreography, you're trying to remember it, and the next thing you know, you're getting up and moving again. All of that just starts to feed into treating your body well, like giving your body a chance to get that exercise and get that adrenaline pumping. And it just will all kind of connect from there in terms of like how you feel about the way that you look. And not that I'm not even trying to pitch this in a certain light as like a fitness program, but I think the reality is just that disconnect that we also feel when we stop dancing, of like, my body's different, or I don't look the way that I used to, or just the conversations you have in your head about how you used to look and you don't look that way now. I just think once you start doing something, that kind of starts to fade into the background. And I think that's something that's really powerful. When you're in this space of just focusing on how you no longer look, it almost paralyzes you from doing something about it. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah.
I mean,
it creates a barrier. It's total mental block. It's a mental barrier. And I think there's a pride aspect, at least for me, it was people expect me to be a certain way, or I need to show up as cheerleader me. And if I don't look like cheerleader me anymore after 4 babies. But the reality is, no, I don't look the way I did in a uniform. But, then you do, I think, have to decide. And it's a decision to make over and over and over again of which frame of mind do you want to stay in? Do you want to stay in that sort of, oh, the good old days are gone and oh, look at me now negative vibe? Or do you want to look at the positive aspects, which is I can still move it, I can still shake it, I can still pick up choreography, I can still keep up with my kids and run around and have a wonderful time, you know, feeling healthy and feeling good. And, you know, whether that six pack ever comes back or not, you know, it's almost compartmentalized. You know, for me, I have fitness goals or dieting, nutrition oriented goals that I would like to continue to strive for. And, you know, but the dancing aspect for me, I had to separate and say, no, the dancing for me is a channel of energy. It's all a healing therapeutic process. So why would I let something like my body stop me from dancing and getting that adrenaline and, you know, getting that energy stockpiled up again so that I can go repeat the cycle and keep up with everybody again. So I definitely can relate to some of those body image struggles. I mean, that's real. It's very real. And this, for me, is an outlet. You know, like I said, I can work on those in tandem with this dance aspect and not have to make sacrifices there.
I feel like there was a point after I retired when my body did change after a surgery that I had where I didn't want to necessarily go to a class because of how I felt moving in my body. Like and like, I like what you're saying in terms of compartmentalizing, because if you're thinking, oh, how you look and what are you going to wear and, you know, worrying about all those things when it comes to like just being able to dance, it becomes, like you said, a barrier. And it's something that you probably don't even connect in your mind. But I know there was a period of time where I was just like, well, you know, what did I used to do for exercise? And I was like, oh, duh, it was dancing. But because I really had a struggle with the way that I looked and I couldn't even fit my dang on workout clothes anymore just for a minute. So it was just really, really discouraging. And you almost think that you have to like fix one thing before you can do another. And I was like, okay, well, maybe I just need to like get my body right and then I'll feel good dancing again. And it's good to compartmentalize and not try to associate maybe your fitness journey with going back to something that you love. And I think I kind of probably subconsciously made that connection, like one was necessary for me to do the other, because I just didn't think I'd feel good doing some cute moves or something when I just felt like my body wasn't right. Does that make sense? I don't know.
Yes. Yeah. I think it's an ongoing evolution too. You know, I don't know. I feel like I'm on a really good positive side now, being it's been almost 2 years since, you know, my boys are going to be 2 years old now, and I've had enough time to kind of process everything. But even then, it's still a constant conversation in my head, a decision I have to make, you know, because I look in the mirror and I expect to, you know, 5, 6, 7, 8 end on one. And I expect like, you know, 25-year-old Neely to show up in the mirror.
Yeah.
And wait, are you sure?
Right.
Yeah, that's me. Okay. Yeah, that's me. Yep. This is good. Okay. This works too. And it is a constant conversation. It's a constant check yourself, checking in. But without the dance aspect, you know, I think it'd be that much harder checking in and checking myself and feeling like I wasn't keeping up or something.
Because when you think about it, I feel like when you're really dancing and you get lost in that moment, whether it's the music, the choreography, whatever it is, looking at yourself in the mirror while you're dancing, whatever that joy is, like, I feel like I'm at my truest self. I'm the happiest. And it's different from being a parent and like, you know, your family or other things that give you happiness. It's like a different kind of happiness, but it's like the joy that just makes me feel like that's who Mhkeeba is. You know what I mean? Like when I'm in that zone, like that's me living my best life. And I think it's hard after you stop dancing to find like what that thing is. But I think what you've created to me is like the closest thing that would put me in that space of feeling like how I used to feel when I was dancing. And it would be practices and as well as games where I would just kind of have that like getting lost in myself and feeling like just so good. Like you just feel good.
Yeah. You're connected to yourself. You're connected to, I think, a higher source. And and you're connected with your sisters. You're having a shared experience with everybody, and on the field, it's just like, I mean, there's nothing like it. So
Yeah. So do you guys have like a debrief where you guys talk to each other too, or is it kind of all centered around like the dancing aspect?
yeah, and actually, no, I'm glad you mentioned it. It's actually a new thing. So we've been getting feedback, and that's part of the connectivity. It's like, hey, can we just stick around after practice and like
And talk. Yeah.
chat?
And
So
chat.
yeah, it's morphing that way for sure. Yes.
That's really good though, because I could see that good feeling just kind of wanting to continue on and maybe getting to know people that you've seen in class,
That's right.
times. And so that's great. I think that's
Yes.
going to be, until we can be in person and able to kind of connect that way, a great thing to kind of incorporate into the time that you guys have together. Knowing pro cheerleaders, you could be there another extra hour or so, but like,
That's right.
so class is over really, but no, I think that's great for people to be able to talk after and exchange info and just kind of and keep up with one another. Because I think you'll be motivated too when you know that it's a monthly membership, so that's great too. But like in anticipating who shows up for practice,
That's right.
that's a
Yeah.
great thing.
Yeah. It's all very exciting that we're still, even though we're separate, we can be together. It's also all leading up to an in-person event too. You mentioned there's just an energy and a vibe of being together that you can't replicate online necessarily. And so in 2021, the date is still TBD with everything happening, but we are going to have a grown-up cheer camp. And this will be all when it's safe to travel, safe to hug each other. We're not even going to toe the line when it comes to any of that timing or anything. So, but it's just a vision that just keeps compounding, and just something that with all the feedback and excitement that we've had from our members so far in the community at large. I mean, I think even cheerleaders that resonate with being a cheerleader from high school or college, dance teams, competitive teams, there's so many of us now. There are a lot of alumni out there that just want to reconnect with that part of them because they've had to kind of shelf it for a while. And so a 3-day camp in Arizona will be part of our 2021 plans.
Oh, that'll be fabulous.
Yes.
Count
yes.
me in.
You're going to have to come host a panel or something.
Oh my God.
It's grown-up cheer camp. So you've got to sprinkle in a couple of more grown-up activities too. It won't just all be, spirit sticks and pep rallies. I'm very excited about that.
That sounds wonderful. So definitely have to do the plug. I'll have everything linked in the show notes so people can check out and learn more about how to become a member. Is it really like you kind of just can drop into the program at any time once you sign up?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you can drop in anytime. It's a rolling 3-month membership. So yeah, you sign up for 3 months or 12 if you're really gung-ho, jump all in. But we're running some new member specials through August too. So especially for the pro community, we didn't get to have our NFL alumni reunion this year, and just
sad about that.
Yeah,
I just wanted everything I wanted to go to. I was so ready between proactive dance Vegas, the freaking NFL cheerleader alumni thing in Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
So sad.
Yeah. So I definitely wanted to give some incentive to connect through the summer. Aside from that, there's also on August 1st, I'm telling you firsthand, we're putting together a virtual pro dance camp. So it'll be all on Instagram, but myself and several other representatives, choreographers from across different NFL teams, we're doing a coast-to-coast kind of pro dance camp. It's all free and it's all going to be on Instagram, so folks can just tune right in on IG Live.
Okay.
We've got a really great lineup. I'm very excited. We're honing in on the details now, but if you want to mark your calendar for August 1st, to be sure to tune in on Instagram.
Okay.
It'll be a fun day of pro dance. So.
Awesome. But I'll definitely share it out. I just think, the timing couldn't be, like I said, more perfect to be able to share something that, for people who are wanting to kind of reconnect to their life as a pro cheerleader. That's definitely one group of people that I'm like excited to share this with. And then for everybody who's gone through this virtual auditions process and are needing some time to, to
Yes.
accept
Process
and
and
heal and,
Mhm.
kind of reset and just kind of thinking through like, okay, once, you have a month or so to kind of get past the cuts or figuring out what's next. And then, something to look forward to of like kind of picking yourself back up and dusting yourself off and just doing something that will, I think, bring joy back into it. Because I think
Absolutely.
we all need some damn joy right now.
Yeah, we've been put through the ringer.
Seriously, 2020 has just been so just out of control. But I'm so excited to share this because I think, again, it just couldn't be better timing. This is what we can do with that energy. This is an outlet to bring out all that positive energy that we all have, that we all tap into to do what we loved over the years. And I just thank you for having the vision to bring it together. Like this is amazing. And shout out to your coaches. How many people do you have on staff?
So it's myself, and it's more of a collaboration. It's not necessarily all go fit win. We're just one piece of the giant pro pie on August 1st. So
Okay.
going to be choreographers and alumni from various teams. So there's Jaguars, Jets, Bengals, Dallas, Cardinals. I think we've got Raiderettes. Yes, have confirmed.
Nice.
So yeah, just
Be like a nice broad, like
coast to coast alumni connection. It's going to be great. So
cool. Well, yay. That makes me so happy. And again, Neely, it's been great meeting you. I feel like it's like you said, it feels like we were on a team together and just, maybe you were on the tall squad and I was on the short squad. We just didn't get a
that's
chance.
right. That's right. We're just on opposite corners. That's
Right?
all.
We're always on the other side of the formation from each other. But thank you for creating this space. Excited for your members, excited to join myself and hopefully, we'll start seeing people at practice. I'm looking forward to trying out Go Fit Win, and I'm excited for others too as well. And I just thank you for your time and talking about your program.
Thank you. Yeah, and I mentioned this to you. I'll say it again. I really appreciate your guiding light in these times. I mean, you've really been an epitome of a leader in action. I think that we as pro cheerleaders are kind of cut from that cloth of being proactive and being leaders. But I mean, you've just kind of taken it to that next level and been a voice for us in the industry. So I appreciate you.
Thank you. You guys are my inspiration. I tell you, it's been just my love and passion for, the industry and the people that make up the industry. And I'm just grateful for the inspiration because I'm fueled by what I see and all the empathy in the world that I have for what people are going through. And like you said, both ends of the spectrum, both as a retired cheerleader, somebody is currently doing it, for those that are aspiring to do it. I mean, I can feel it all. And thank you for that. I appreciate it. It's been, like I said, rough. And I was like, we have to end the season finale on a good, positive note. And I think this is what I'd love to be able to share and impart with people as a way to kind of do something with that energy.
That energy needs to release.
Get out. People can see we're both like flailing our arms and like shimmying and shaking because it's like it needs to come out in a very positive and wonderful way. And I think you nailed it. Definitely.
Yes. I got some choreography inspiration just then too.
I want to see that move in my first practice.
That's right.
Oh my gosh. So tell everybody your Instagram handle.
At Go Fit Win Squad. Yeah, at Go Fit Win Squad on Instagram. And the website is gofitwin.com for all the membership information. And like I said, the new member specials are running through August. So it should be good timing for when we air.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Thank you. Thanks so much for listening to the Pro Cheerleading Podcast. You can follow your favorite podcast on social media at Pro Cheerleading Podcast on Instagram, at Pro Cheer Podcast on Twitter. We're on Facebook, on YouTube, and you can support your favorite podcast on Patreon. Until next time, keep your eyes on the sidelines.